Okay, this is a quick and dirty analysis of the ground fault heated windshield circuit. The high voltage comes in here. This is the ground side. This is the plus side. You can see the little filtration through a little inductive toroid thing going on here. And then a bunch more capacitors coupled together, which actually is where the tie-in to the 12-volt ground is. There's some active circuitry here, resistor and a couple of capacitors coming out to a analog switch here, and then and then an out. Yeah, that's the output to the analog switch, and then there's some capacitive coupled signaling that goes out elsewhere. I suspect this is where it's monitoring for the leakage between the two grounds, but that's as much as I know. The heated windshield circuit connects in here because this is the high voltage coming in, and so that's the positive this side, the negative this side, which is happening before this part of the circuit. And then here is also some activity associated with the windshield as well. I've noted the ICs, the chips that are on the board, and I'll go take a quick look at the board in a moment. But there's an analog switch on IC13 pin 6, and IC10 is an it's an analog solid state relay, they call it, basically optically coupled. This one is also optically coupled. So the board itself right here, we're getting the ground coming in on pin 9 on this side, the hot coming in over here on pin 4 it is. Basically, that's the capacitor that goes across the two, through that inductor, out to these three capacitors here, coupled together. And this is where the connection to the ground happens. Here is the ground to the low voltage side. And so it definitely couples through to there. The connection to these ICs, connection to this circuit all happens here. Other than that, this part of the board is completely isolated from that part of the board. Right now, just to do some active testing here, just to keep this all kind of sane. So I'm going to go from the low voltage ground, which is right there, and just double checking that I got a zero connection there. And then this is the high voltage ground over here, and you can see that that comes in at about 17 megohms with just an ordinary ohm meter. That's in one direction, the positive lead of the meter going to the low voltage ground. So we're just going to switch this up now, and we're going to again make sure we've got a good connection there on the ground, and back over here to the high voltage ground again, and you can see that that's 10 megohms. So that's about as good as it gets for testing that part of the circuit. If the fault was occurring in that board, you'd maybe get an indication there. But that looks like 10 megohms in one direction, 20 in the other. Fairly high impedance using just a regular ohm meter. So one can of course dig in quite a bit deeper here. There's almost as many as a dozen op amps in this circuit with a bunch of test points here. Some logic control to control maybe these the optical couplers and the like. This is going to be a pretty complicated circuit. There's voltage regulators here to bring this 12 volts down to a lower voltage, and some other activity going on here. I'll just quickly flip this board over so you can see what the other side looks like. And again, some passive components, some transistors, but pretty straight-sided. It looks like at least a 3-layer board. Where the ground for the low voltage side is in one of the inside layers, but the 280 volts and the ground for the 280 volts, the traction pack battery, is all kept on this side of the board. Nothing passes this zone, and so these two capacitors here are the ones that are sending some signaling to the electronics over here, as well as these two capacitors here, which I identified in this drawing. So again, those are the two little blue capacitors which are heading off into the analog circuitry there. And these two series capacitors here, high voltage, are the two caps that are noted over here. So there you have it. That's as much as I know.